were almost going to play that role, though, right?
I was going to play the role like early on, and then I saw Midsummer with Florence, and then I met her, and I was like, that's it, lights out. She's our lead.
Frank is essentially this kind of hologram of sexiness that's woven.
You know, my favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie.
And as for all the endless tabloid gossip and all the noise out there, I mean, the internet feeds itself. I don't feel the need to contribute. I think it's sufficiently well nourished.
I'm gonna go ahead and oh Dove, look at her little face. There's a kitty. You're so cute. She's so cute. You're so cute. What do you have to say about that? Oh, I swear to God, you better listen up right now. If any of you even had the slightest inclination to comment something down below like, oh, I'm a little worried, darling, I'm gonna need you to bang your head against a dresser, Dobby style. Dobby! Stop! Dobby! That joke wasn't funny the first 4,000 times that I heard it, and it's not gonna be funny if you put it in my comments now. That ban also includes anything having to do with Harry Styles' interview quotes, most especially, what I like about the movie is that it feels like a movie. No! Bad subscriber. Bad. If you're not a subscriber, then hello. Welcome to the channel. As you can see, things are typically very chaotic around here, but I do try to attack my reviews with a very analytical approach. If you are a subscriber, then you know that we're not in my usual location. I'm currently visiting some friends in the UK. I'm in England. I can practice sounding like a real bloke, like a real wanker, like a real wanker. Anyways, holy shit, we're here to talk about Don't Worry Darling. I already did a live show with a deranged visual to kind of break down all the behind the scenes drama, so I'm not gonna touch on that too much, but I actually do have a couple of things to clarify, so I will be revisiting some of the drama, some of those topics, but I'm gonna come at it from a little bit different approach because there have been developments. So I'll kick the review off by going over a bunch of interviews that I found and pulling out the most interesting snippets. Then I'll give you my spoiler-free thoughts on the movie and whether or not you should go out and see it. Finally, we'll have a breakdown where I go by each plot point and share all my juiciest thoughts. So Don't Worry Darling, how did this infamous project even get started?
Well, along with my excellent screenwriter, Katie Silberman, we were really interested in the kind of problematic nature of nostalgia itself for everyone but a very slim portion of the population. We started writing this film in the era of Make America Great Again, and we were really questioning what exactly is meant by that.
It's interesting how back during those darkest of times, we actually knew how bad it was going to get. A lot of us knew, and here we are 6 years later dealing with the repercussions of a giant orange human turd appointing the shittiest justices to our Supreme Court. So even though the script was conceived of some 6 odd years ago, it's still pretty much relevant as ever. There was also so much drama off screen that really shed this hideously ironic light on the double standards of being a woman in this industry. But all of that commentary and kind of how it made the movie a lot more meta than it was intending to be, it's all very messy, and I'm gonna get into it a little bit later. But it's not a secret that on an intentional level, this is a feminist film, so we can talk about that.
I hope it provokes conversations. I hope it makes people think and question the system that serves them. We also want this film to be incredibly entertaining. Katie and I always say we believe in Trojan horse films, that on the outside we want it to be absolute entertainment.
It's funny that she uses the term Trojan horse because that's exactly what Zach Krager said, and I put his interview snippet in my Barbarian review just a few weeks ago. Dove, you're back! Hi. You got my hair on your face. Oh my gosh. Also, like Barbarian, this was meant to be pretty thick with commentary, but also serve as a very fun blockbuster. In fact, she even said something similar to Harry's infamous line about the movie feeling like a movie, and I feel like this has kind of been overlooked.
We're lucky we get to come out in theaters, and so many movies don't, and now it's a director's dream. Yeah. But I'm aware when audiences go out and they're gonna spend money on a ticket and they're gonna get a babysitter and they're gonna go to the theater, I want it to be an experience. I want it to be a ride. I want them to feel like they had a fun time. Yeah. And this one is a real like movie that makes you feel like that satisfaction of the communal theatrical experience.
But you're so distracting. I do feel like this had to have been some pillow talk over the last months or years, whatever. I feel like Olivia must have expressed to him exactly what she wanted the movie to be and how she wanted audiences to react to the film. And so Harry, to the best of his abilities, was trying to regurgitate the things that Olivia Wilde had said to him.
The intention of the film is to be really entertaining, and I think it's a really entertaining film. You know, my favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie. It feels like a real like go to the theater film, movie.
Although I loathe when people speculate on people or relationships that they clearly know nothing about, so that's not what I'm trying to do, but like I'm also a very observant person who likes to tell stories. Just know that this is not with any malicious intent, and I'm also not here to dogpile on Olivia Wilde because this actually brings up a bigger conversation. I know that it's a popular thing to do to hate on this movie and hate on Olivia Wilde, and I'm not gonna do that. It's just a bad vibe in my opinion. It's not like calling out Andrew Dominik, for example, the director of Blonde, who seems to hate women and made a very exploitative movie about an already very exploited woman. Apparently it also has pro-life scenes and completely fictionalized assault scenes, so fuck that guy. If you don't believe me, this is a snippet from an interview with Sight and Sound magazine where he just calls women whores completely unprovoked. I'll link that article down below, but I don't really recommend it. Also, I wish you could see Dove right now. There she is, there she is. Again, I'm gonna get into the double standards later, so I'm sorry for that tangent. So where were we? Basically, the movie feels like a movie. And interestingly, Olivia Wilde's favorite moments to shoot were not the sex scenes, not the suspense, not the weird experimental shots, no.
I think my favorite stuff to direct were the action sequences, though. I love car chases. What I really want to do is like Fast and Furious 45 or whatever they're on. This is a rig called the Biscuit Rig, which is how you shoot high-speed car chases, and it's really fun. It's basically like the best Disneyland ride you can imagine. And it was like the greatest day of my life, week of my life.
I didn't have Olivia Wilde wanting to direct a Fast and Furious movie on my 2022 bingo card. Then again, I didn't have Harry Styles spitting on Chris Pine on my bingo card either. Allegedly. Speaking of that incident, I say that we get into more of the meat of the drama, if you want to call it that. Basically, one of the main issues was that Florence Pugh was allegedly not comfortable working with Shia LaBeouf. He was originally cast in the role of Jack. He basically gave Olivia an ultimatum, and Olivia chose Florence Pugh because, obviously. She was even asked about this on Stephen Colbert's Late Show. Oh, there she goes.
It's a question of semantics.
But honest to God, is that it?
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
It has to be this way, and he said, I can't do that, I'm leaving, and you said, well, then you're fired?
He said, well, then that's great. You go, and we shall move on. And it was that, you know, it wasn't going to move forward in the way that he wanted it to. And so he had to leave.
This provides a little bit more context to the video clip that came out about Olivia where she was practically begging him to stay on the project. I would like to give her the benefit of the doubt that at that point so late in pre-production, it was going to be really, really difficult to try to recast somebody. So maybe she was trying to kind of speak his language to get him to stay on the project, because at any point during pre-production, production, even post-production, as we've seen with Batgirl, that a movie can fall apart for pretty much any reason. This was also her first time being gifted a relatively large budget. They don't usually give women the big boy toys, but she was given $35 million to make this movie. It's actually very encouraging because this has only started to happen recently. Greta Gerwig was one of the only ones doing it, and then more recently we have like Patty Jenkins and Chloe Zhao, and there's, I mean, I swear just like just a little handful of women directors who are actually given budgets like that I very much look up to. So because of that, it feels like something that's actually finally attainable for me as a woman that like wants to direct someday. And this is something that Olivia brings up in multiple interviews, actually.
Do you feel that the press surrounding this movie is a bit of a double standard? Because I kept finding myself going, oh, this has happened like a lot.
I think that every industry you find that everywhere. I mean, every woman can kind of relate to that. I think also like this business, I was aware when I got into it, it's male dominated, has been for a long time. Being a female director, there's not that many of us, not for lack of talent, just for lack of opportunity. There's a lot of great young filmmakers out there that are women.
Here's where things get tricky though, and where I'm not gonna come to a satisfying conclusion. I'm just here to try to foster a safe space to speak on this issue, because there's no way that we're ever gonna know the full actual truth, and we don't know these people, so like it's all speculation. We've heard a lot from all sides, and so the truth is somewhere in the middle. I'm really inclined to believe that misogyny plays a huge role in why things blew up the way that they did. So I want to give Olivia the benefit of the doubt, but there are a few situations that for sure could have been handled better. I'm gonna show you a few clips from an interview that really support why I would love to give her the benefit of the doubt, but then we will get into why that's kind of gonna be difficult.
One of the first things I say to my entire production before shooting is, no one here is more important than anyone else. It comes from my experience as an actor, recognizing that certain people on set really believed in this really unfair social hierarchy that was only getting in the way of people's best work. I don't know why it's so much harder for a woman to get a film financed at a high budget level than a man. But I think we'll really be evolved when we stop even having a category of conversation that's like women in film.
This is everything that I want to see and more. I want to see myself represented. I want the hierarchical nature of sets to be abolished. I have talked endlessly about my shitty experiences as a PA and how it was one of the most dehumanizing things I've ever done. I bring up this movie all the time because it's really the only true feature that I've ever worked on. It's still at a budget of under $1 million, but still. The second, produced by Ryan Phillippe and some other assholes, I don't know. Stars Casper Van Dien from Stormship Troopers. He's actually a very nice guy. But it was directed by this guy Brian Skiba, who nobody knows, like nobody cares, but he was awful. He screamed all the time and threw tantrums on set. Granted, no one knows his name, so no one was gonna write a story about that, but this is a pattern in the industry, and we'll get to that in just a second. But now, I have also had amazing experiences working on set, and it's really just all about who you work for. So to see her speaking in this way about not believing in the hierarchy of sets, I wanna believe it so bad. So I just wanna put that out there, that I think I'm definitely bringing a bias to this conversation, and I'm gonna try to not let that kind of sway my opinion on what went down, but it's there. And I can definitely see the wrongdoing of her casting Shia LaBeouf in the first place. And maybe it's not all on her, maybe the production company has something to do with it. You know, when a studio gives you a bunch of money, they have a good amount of say in who gets cast, the location, everything. His reports are public record. He's been credibly accused of being very abusive, and word gets around, especially in a little town like Hollywood. So it's very sus that she then turned around and begged him to stay on the project too.
All of the women who made this film, we talked a lot about complicity, our role within the patriarchal system, and this is something that, you know, we're all very much involved in. I didn't have any interest in oversimplifying this as a feminist parable. I wanted it to be you know, provocative and allow us to all really take a good look at our participation in the society that we benefit from. We want women to feel that they are being heard.
Bit ironic now, isn't it, babes? It's a bit ironic, isn't it, Dove? Oh, she's busy, okay. So all of that to say, obviously she is not above criticism, but I must now point the arrow to other terrible men who have not received half the criticism that she has for very trivial things. Shia LaBeouf, for example, never faced an internet mob like that, never faced a smear campaign in the press. Wilde got more slack for hiring an abuser than the abuser ever got himself. People have been getting on to Margot Robbie's ass for signing on to Amsterdam with director David O. Russell. And it's like, what are we doing here? People are so desperate to humble women that they don't even realize the bigger picture.
I'm just trying to fucking help you. Do you understand me? No, you're not. I'm being a fucking collaborator. I was trying to help you figure out the fucking thing. Hey, bitch, I'm not here to be fucking yelled at. I worked on this fucking thing for 3 fucking years, not to have some fucking cunt yell at me in front of the fucking crew when I'm trying to fucking help you, bitch. Figure it out yourself. Well, I have figured it out. Yeah, fuck yourself.
That's not even the half of it, by the way. I'll link this article down below that kind of has like the timeline of his allegations, which include getting into physical fights with pretty famous actors. The whole nature of Hollywood just has bred generations of extremely predatory top-billed men. It sucks. It's annoying. I'm annoyed. Male directors throw tantrums all the time. Like I said, the one movie that I worked on, of course that happened. And it's not a news story. It's just some shit that you put up with because that's the status quo. There aren't a lot of other opportunities. Remember when Tom Cruise screamed at his crew because one person was not wearing his mask correctly?
We are creating thousands of jobs, you I don't ever want to see it again! And if you don't do it, you're fired! And I see you do it again, you're gone! And you! Don't you ever do it again!
And everyone was like, wow, he's so right for that. We also know that he's part of this insane misogynistic cult, and everyone's like, that's weird, silly old Tom.
I think it's a privilege to call yourself a Scientologist, and it's something that you have to earn, because a Scientologist does. He or she has the ability to create new and better realities and improve conditions.
So I just feel like what Olivia Wilde has been accused of pretty much just pales in comparison. I also think it's gross that we just live in a world where it's perfectly fine and natural to speculate on people's relationships and make that completely public. And again, I'm not saying that she shouldn't be held accountable. Obviously, don't hire abusers. Like, what are you doing? But let's start with the bigger issue at hand, maybe. Let's maybe start with this industry that actually actively facilitates predatory behavior. I'm sorry, ranting is not fun. I just want to talk about a pretty movie that stars pretty people, but here we are. I'm also getting so into it because this is a really important theme of the movie as well. So it's actually just frighteningly meta in that regard, kind of without trying to be. It's really ironic because the movie is about questioning the narratives that you are fed. And also, I want to enter this industry, but I want to do it safely. Sue me. But damn it, I am going to talk about the pretty movie with pretty people, and I'm going to make that my priority. So we have some legitimately fun facts to get into, no philosophical discussions attached. Firstly, Olivia Wilde had originally cast herself in the lead role. That was until she saw Midsommar. Then she was like, hang it up, we have a star. She ended up as a supporting role in the film, a character with 2 children, one of which was her real-life daughter.
That's your daughter Daisy, right there.
And she was very good at playing my daughter. It was really great to have her there. And I really loved that she was seeing me in that light. You know, I thought, oh good, like somewhere subconsciously this is seeping in.
That is so chaotic. Imagine directing a feature, acting in it too, having to direct yourself, and being a mom at the same time. Chaos. Utter chaos. Her character was also based off of her late grandmother, Jean. And apparently when her siblings watched the movie, they noticed right away. Now, circling back a bit to the behind-the-scenes drama, there is strangely not too much to report on, just maybe a couple new perspectives. There was a big rumor that Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh got into a screaming match on set, but I guess that's not true because 40 members of the cast and crew came forward and signed some shit saying like, no, that didn't happen. It's like, what? Surely no one still cares at this point. On the red carpet, there was all the drama of there seeming to be a bunch of tension between the cast and the director, but Florence was interviewed about working with Harry Styles, and
I think obviously everybody is going to be asking that question, but a total professional, and it was a great experience working together.
Maybe there were tensions on set, maybe there was some drama, maybe Olivia was sneaking off with Harry, I don't know. But everyone at the premiere still had the decency to show up with grace and be professional. So yeah, there was probably some mess. I don't deny that, but in my opinion, I don't think that it was any more messy than a typical standard male-directed film set. And with that, I would like to get into my spoiler-free thoughts on the movie. If you follow me on Letterboxd, you probably saw that I gave this movie 3.5 stars out of 5, which is not too bad, but it's not great either. Let me start out with all the positives. You already know that Florence Pugh was the best part of this movie. I don't really need to talk about that. The direction was actually really good, and in that sense, I'm just talking about the camera movements, the shots, the composition. It was really beautiful looking. To build to that, the world that they built to be on screen was fucking phenomenal. It's one of the most gorgeous production designs that I've ever seen, the complete opposite of what you would think a typical dystopia would look like.
You know, I've always been really interested in the iconography of the 1950s and 60s in America, and we were so inspired by the architecture, art, film, and music of that era, and it's such a seductive era.
I think it was the perfect choice, especially in order to question the nostalgia that people have for that era, because it was obviously a lot different to how it's usually portrayed. People think it was so idyllic because it's post-World War II, people are in love, there's a big baby boom, people got to drink milkshakes in diners, I don't know. But what jumps to my mind first is that segregation was still a thing at that time. This film lacks any and all intersectionality, by the way, even though there are characters of color in this movie. And you could argue there's a reason for that, but we'll wait until spoilers. I think the most obvious reason is that both the writer and director are both white women, but I don't know, there's a little bit more to it. If nothing else, the set design and the costuming and the hair and makeup were so fantastic, oh my god. Most of all, Florence Pugh, they had her in some stunning looks. The rest of the cast was so stacked too, and everybody did their job, although naturally I have questions. So Harry Styles, I feel like for the most part, he carries his weight, but that's because he's not given very much to do. He was miscast for sure, but they also did let Florence Pugh carry the movie as they should. He's very secondary. There were a few moments where he had to be serious and bring a few very heavy emotions up, and unfortunately whenever this would happen, my audience would start laughing, and I can't really say I blame them, but he was not as bad as some people will say. Chris Pine was godlike as ever, but he was not given nearly enough to do. I also love the way that he speaks about his character though.
The important thing was the language. You know, all of these leaders use language as a weapon. Frank is essentially this kind of hologram of sexiness that's woven with incredibly beautiful yet obtuse word salad.
So many of the antagonists' motivations were not fleshed out at all, and there would be these big twists with no real significant meaning. It all seemed to be done for the sake of the shock without ever asking the question, why? So therein lies the main frustration that I have with this movie. There are so many intriguing plot lines that come up that are basically just forgotten about. The other most frustrating thing is that this isn't really pushing any new boundaries. It could be, it almost does, but it definitely lacks a bit of a male perspective, which might might be like weird to hear me say, but at the very least, it definitely lacks a true understanding of toxic masculinity. But I can't really get into that without spoilers, I'm sorry. Another negative I have might seem like a smaller issue, but the score. A score can make or break a film. That is so true. There are so many movies that wouldn't be half as iconic as they are without an amazing score. I think they should redo it, get a new composer in for the digital release maybe, and give it the proper tone. There are also some really weird experimental moments, as I briefly mentioned earlier, and it kind of is meant to represent Florence Pugh's character Alice and her mind fragmenting. I don't like that at all, or the goofy imagery that goes with it. Her performance can speak for itself, as we've seen in Midsommar, and maybe they didn't want it to be too similar to Midsommar, I don't know. So they decided to throw in some editing flares. I don't think that was necessary. Also, what the hell was Nick Kroll doing there? He didn't do a damn thing. Seriously, that was one of the biggest question marks of the movie, because you have this big actor, and then it's like, why is he there? He had, I don't know, like 5 lines? That was bizarre. That was super, just truly strange. Anyway, ultimately, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars because I found it really entertaining. It's a bit derivative, absolutely. The twists seem great, and then they aren't. It had phenomenal acting. It had terrible acting. It's so gorgeous, and it's also ugly. So there you have it. I do recommend going out to see this one to form your own conclusion on it. If nothing else, it is a pretty fun and entertaining watch, or, you know, if nothing else, you can watch it to see if the off-screen drama translate to some tension on screen. I personally don't think it does, but whatever. Maybe you can try to sniff that out. With that, I say that we get into spoiler territory, so you are no longer safe if you haven't seen this movie, but I know I am late on this review, so hopefully most of you have seen it. Anyway, the movie kicks off with everyone enjoying a grand old time in Victory, California. The wives are always shopping and drinking by the pool. The men have some super secret job where they all leave together in unison every day. Alice and Jack are lead characters. They really couldn't be happier. They destroy the meal on their table because Jack would frankly prefer the meal under Alice's skirt, if you know what I mean. Which, can we pause for just like 2 seconds to ask the question, why? Why was Olivia Wilde so adamant about the fact that this movie depicts female pleasure? There's no male pleasure in the movie, basically, which, like, cool, big ups to the female orgasm. And I think that's cool, yeah, focus on the ladies, but I don't know why she was so adamant about it, like during interviews and stuff. Why was that such a thing? Even Florence Pugh was like, that's not why we make movies. And this is the beginning of a pattern where Olivia Wilde seems to want so badly to be a feminist, but kind of misses the mark on some things. You can even see this pattern starting with Booksmart, because she had these 2 teenage girls, these high school age girls that adored and revered Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I feel like someone who's like truly educated on this movement would also know that, you know, RBG, she did do some things for us ladies, but also she did some really shitty stuff too. And it's not empowering for all the focus of pleasure to just be on the women, but this does really conflict with some of the twists and the themes of the movie that come up later. There's another loose thread that comes up when they're starting to go at it in Frank's bedroom, and he comes in and he just kind of like watches them for a second, and Alice doesn't stop. She doesn't say anything. What the hell was that about? Because they circle back to it at the dinner table scene, and we still don't get any answers about it. I trusted you in my bedroom, and what about it? Backtracking, things start to get suspicious when one of the other wives seems to be experiencing some delusion, and she's disrupting the peace. I'm just a little bit tired of this. It's been done. In no way am I sitting there going, oh, maybe she really is just mentally ill. No, if that was the case, we wouldn't have a movie. Of course something odd is going on in Victory. So I'm really tired of that trope, but I don't know what else they would have done, because they chose to set it in the 50s, and the central theme is about the oppression of women and like the whole mental illness aspect of it. It is on brand for that time period, so I don't know what else they would have done. But that actress also posted to Instagram more drama that apparently a bunch of her scenes from the movie got cut out. And listen, the runtime was already over 2 hours, and I feel like that character overstayed her welcome as it was. It's not unusual at all for entire roles to be cut sometimes. In Escape Room Tournament of Champions, Isabel Furman is cut out entirely, and they did reshoots. She doesn't even make the theatrical cut. So I think that everyone can really calm down. Then comes the plane crash. The fucking plane crash. That was what exactly? We never know. Why the fuck would there be a crashing plane in a simulated world? Would Frank not have control over that? Was that a glitch? That was really the best plot device they had to get Alice to go out to headquarters. Why not use Margaret's son, who had apparently died because she brought him out to the desert? Why not have her see him running out that way or something? I don't know how that would have worked in the end, how that would have tied together, how that would have made made sense. It's better than a fucking plane. In the following days, weird things happen, like walls squishing her into a window. Again, a glitch, I guess? Then the eggs are empty. Oh, she saran wraps her face? I have questions. I have too many questions and not enough time. Actually, no, I can't remember at what point the saran wrap face thing happens. Regardless, I don't understand. Then she sees Margaret slit her throat and fall from the rooftop, and obviously this doesn't help things. Jack then gaslights her because he knows the truth, but he tells her that everything's fine, and this is corroborated by the town doctor.
Keep calm and carry on.
I think that this was a decent commentary, actually. This stuff really did happen. Mental illness, even in some places in the world, is still very stigmatized, but it's not pushing the conversation forward at all, and that is the issue with majority of the more like feminist moments of the movie. Anyway, after that is some fancy work event where Jack gets this big promotion and he tap dances away on this little stage. That was actually fantastic, and I'm glad that they had Harry Styles for this because obviously that man knows how to command a stage. However, it's then revealed that Bunny, Olivia Wilde's character, is no ally. Alice is freaking out in the bathroom for some reason, and then Bunny is like, "You're being selfish. Jack is having the most important night of his life, blah blah blah." And how ironic, babes, that Olivia Wilde is playing the character with the internalized misogyny. Again, good commentary though, because yes, unfortunately, there are a good amount of women who do actively uphold the patriarchy. They have some internalized misogyny going on. But he's never gonna pick you, babe. That's why I'll never be a pick-me-ass bitch, and I'll always call out unethical people in the industry. And if I ever sell out, if you ever catch me working for someone like Alex Garland, let's say, I give you full permission to call me a twat. Anyways, then comes the infamous dinner scene where Chris Pine and Florence Pugh are given no substance and they act their hearts out anyways. I just can't get over the fact that there was really no depth to so much of the dialogue in this movie, and yet they just went for it. It's basically just this confrontation between Alice and Frank, and nothing comes of it. He's like, "Finally, someone to challenge me. Didn't Margaret just do that?" And she's like, "All the women here are from Chicago. Isn't that weird?" And it's like, what does Alice even think is going on? At this point, she knows as much as we do. All that she can bring to the table is he's lying and he's keeping us trapped here.
Because you didn't want to be reminded.
He's using you. He's using all of us. Do you even know what the Victory Project actually is? Have you ever asked?
Do you?
Girl, come with some more evidence first. This is embarrassing. Olivia Wilde's character was also originally supposed to be in that scene, but she pulled herself from it because she felt like she really needed to be behind the monitor and give her actors really close attention. Oh, who's coming in? Todd! Todd! It's Todd! Oh! Oh my god. There's Seb.
Oh no, her hair's coming with him apparently.
Lovely chaos. Okay, where was I? So anyway, after that, Alice begs Jack to take her away from Victory, but the shitbag that he is, he rats her out and she's taken away by some men in jumpsuits. This reveal is so messy, this big twist. Oh my. I honestly did kind of like it. It did surprise me a little bit because I was never under the impression that they were in a simulation. I wasn't under the impression that I was watching a sci-fi. Oh, Todd, are you doing it again? Hi. Hi.
Close this door a little bit better.
Okay.
Honey.
Hi. Oh.
Okay. Round 2. Let's go.
I had just assumed that she had been kidnapped and maybe brainwashed or something. But we flash to her in another life as a surgeon, and she is living with the crustiest man I've ever seen for some reason. We see a moment where he's like huddled over a podcast, and that is a very real nightmare. I have interacted with far too many incels for my liking. They come out of the woodworks like fucking termites to tell me that I'm a snowflake or something, and it's like, worry about your developing humpback first, Quasimodo. Ugly ass basement rats all hunched over their computer telling me I'm the keyboard warrior. Shut the fuck up. Go to hell. I just couldn't help myself from laughing in this moment because they turned one of the sexiest men in the world into a fucking incel. Somewhere in the multiverse, Harry Styles did end up as an incel, and that's not something I wanted to think about ever, but it totally misses the mark yet again, and here's why. Men like that, who are completely vile, bigoted rodents, do not dream of a life where they come home from work to eat out their wives. They maybe dream of going back to the 50s when controlling women was a hell of a lot easier. We couldn't even open our own bank accounts, fuck's sake. But the way that Alice and Jack were so happy in the beginning, where he was this perfect husband who tried so hard to cook her dinner, that is not what incels dream of. They want subservient women who will basically act as their mother and their own personal sex toy. So it's a really soft and shiny representation of what men actually want from women, those types of men. It is horrifying that he would take away her autonomy and trap her in that world, but the real world is not explored in the slightest. We never develop on Jack, we mainly just know him as this cute, loving husband. We see a moment where she comes home from a long shift and he tries to kiss her and she declines, and what, that's what set him over over the edge. A man who would trap his partner in a simulation is not a man that could ever land a hot surgeon to begin with. So the commentary is just very confusing and not fleshed out enough, even though I do like the start of what they have going there. I think it maybe would have been a little bit more impactful if it was revealed that Jack and Alice were complete strangers and he kidnapped her or something. Also, are we coming for Mr. Zuckerberg with the metaverse? Like, what type of world are men really trying to create type of thing? I think if you're gonna do that, you have to push boundaries, and this movie just doesn't do that at all. You could argue, well, maybe it's more about bodily autonomy and pro-choice kind of a thing. Yes, and what about it? Man making choice about woman body bad. Ooh. Like, yes, and we should all be on the same page about that by now. Maybe explore the nuances of fake diversity. I don't know. I guess it is perfectly fine to make a movie where you're just bringing it up, you're not pushing the conversation forward at all, but then maybe don't talk such a big game about it, you know? Sell it like the basic blockbuster that it pretty much is. So Alice kills Jack, girl boss, love that for her. Then Bunny reveals that she actually chose this life because her children are still alive in this simulation, and that was actually interesting. A lot of times women have to stay in abusive relationships because they are completely out of other options. It's not where they want to be, but maybe they're just out of options because they don't make enough income on their own, and if they left, their abusive partner would track them down anyways. Why don't they just go to the police? Well, I don't think I need to explain how stupid that sentiment is. Again, it's something that I wish was fleshed out more. While Alice is fleeing to headquarters as well, Shelley kills Frank. What? In the dinner scene, and before that too, she is nothing if not a devoted wife. She upholds the system just as much, if not more so than Frank. Because Frank will like entertain Alice and be like, okay, finally you can challenge me, and Shelley just shuts it down. We never ever come back to them. She just kills him and that's it. Is it setting up a sequel? Am I missing something? Is it a, ooh, who runs the world now? Girls. I hate it. And right before Alice makes it to the headquarters building, she has this flashback or something of Jack asking her to stay for pretty much no other reason than it has to be a dramatic ending. Maybe it's supposed to be like, oh, the patriarchy, it's gonna keep clawing its way back until its last dying breath. She literally murdered him. You can't do that. I probably skimmed over a couple plot points here and there, but there's not too much substance to the story, so I don't think it matters. It could have been a tight hour and a half too, I think, instead of being over 2 hours, but here we are. I know that I mainly talked shit, but there was a lot about the movie that I did find enjoyable. I think it's just the vibes. It's Florence Pugh and the vibes. It kept me entertained. The story is pretty awful though, too many loose threads, and not enough was explained. So that's gonna do it. I hope that you enjoyed this more unusual review, I guess. I don't typically like to make reviews about movies that I don't like. I was gonna be doing one for Smile, but then I saw the movie and I was like, This one was a special case where it kind of brought up a bigger conversation about the industry as a whole and the double standards, so that was my main beef today. That'll do though. If you want to see more content from me, you can subscribe to my Patreon. That'll be linked down below, and of course, a huge shout out to these wonderful people. They allow me the time to produce these videos. This would literally not be possible without them. There's also a lot of bonus content on there. I would say probably between at least like 4 to 6 videos a month, as I always post my first reactions there, so these people have known all my thoughts on Don't Worry Darling for about a week now. If that's not for you, then all my other social media is linked down below, as well as all my affiliate codes, so go crazy. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Never give a look of attention to an incel, and I hope I catch you in the next one. Bye!